Donnie B, GotDaBeats.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Donnie B. Got the Beats. We live on the beat. You already know what time it is when you hear that beat bang. Look, you know how we do, man. I had, got to bring another family member of mine into the equation. But first, you know what I got to do is that glorious intro. So, as I said, this is a family member of mine. A real close brother of mine, I swear, as a brother from another or the other mother. Met this brother at the Hampton Institute University in the greater Hampton Roads area.
That's right.
Member of the glorious Lowdown music, the sousaphone section in the marching force. This guy, when we first met him, man, he was just a very candid individual. Highly educated. You could tell he came from good stock, but just kind of like, I don't want to say drag, but he was just kind of just regular. It's like at the end of the season, this man's comedic, like funny bone, just kind of popped up out of nowhere. It was just nonstop laughter. And if anybody knows, Lowdown boy, we some comedians at heart anyway. So I don't know if he was like that. I don't know if this guest was like that before he came to us, or either way, we all just made each other. But nonetheless, this is my brother, man, my family member, man. I love this dude, writer, comedian extraordinaire, De'Mun Oakley. What's going on with you, brother?
Yeah. What's up, D? What's up? What I'm trying to figure out what was the glorious intro. Because you have an intro. It's musical and beautiful. Right. And then you cut from the intro, come in and then introduce the glorious intro.
You see how I did that? See, it's what we gotta do is make sure we understand that it's we gotta bring this person in right. I gotta tell everybody about this person, and this is my give you your flowers section of this.
What was that? And then I second guessed you, just like black people do. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, brother. I appreciate man. When I say I'm glad to be here, D, like I know you hear that every time people come on the show. They're glad to see you, glad to be represented and get a chance to express themselves. But dude, when I say I'm glad to be here, I need to start by saying to everybody, I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And last night, shit didn't go well for Tuscaloosa, Alabama. if you follow sports at all.
It took me a second. I was like, oh.
The University of Alabama got trounced by Texas A&M. Big deal. People lose football games. No big deal. Some woman watching this, she don't give a shit about football at all. Fine. You win, ma'am. But then, immediately after the game ended, I switched to pay-per-view to watch Deontay Wilder fight Tyson Fury. And he commences to get his ass laid out on the ring. And all I felt like was somebody has upset Jesus in Tuscaloosa. And he was taking it down on us. And I thought when I went to sleep last night, I wasn't going to wake up to be here for you today. So to be here, the curse is broken and we are back. We are back.
Yeah. It's the glorious intro.
It was the glorious intro that did it. Dude.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. We're gonna get back to that fight for sure. I didn't see the football game, but I did see the highlights. Well, we'll just throw that in the bag. But we're gonna talk about that Deontay Wilder joint later.
I'm excited. Wherever you want to take it, man. Let's go.
So let's go. Let's start back from the beginning. Let's talk about let everybody know, because I know you. Okay. The people that know me know you. But the people that don't know you, who is De'Mun Oakley?
I think I start off by saying I'm a man who takes pride in just being Black, being active in that community. But at the same time, comedy, I'll tell you why comedy was so important to me, honestly. And I'd read a lot of psychology books because it helps me to understand how to break down comedy if you understand the human mind. Mm-hmm. And I got to a point in my life where I really like making people laugh, but it's not like something I have to do. When I'm in a room full of people, I don't feel an inclination to have to make people laugh. It's not that Robin Williams entertainment mentality. So people can get thrown off by me because they're like, well, you don't seem funny. Understood. That's fair. But I had to ask myself, where does that come from? What you're asking me, I ask myself a lot. Right. And I realized, so in my household, growing up, we had a fairly conservative household. I won't say real conservative. So we couldn't watch like R-rated movies. I'll start right there. Okay. So if I made it to an R-rated movie, my parents were there, they saw it, it was funny, usually no real gratuitous sex involved. But if we wanted to watch stand-up comedy, bruh, it could be the filthiest, dirtiest shit in the world. But if it was comedy, it was somehow, approved. Right. And we would all sit around this beautiful Baptist family and just die laughing at Robin Harris just roasting the shit out of somebody. Right. It would be like Sinbad was a big, back in the 80s. That's how old I am. Sinbad was a huge staple because he was the only one that had like HBO credits. He would show up on Showtime HBO regularly, afros and bell bottoms. Yeah. He had specials that you didn't have to necessarily go to the movies to see, rent to see. They come into your box office. And he was the only Black comedian I can think of besides a Pryor that would come into your box at home, your television box, by the way. Mm-hmm. And other than that, if it was like really filthy comedy, it bonded us. And so in my head, psychologically, I feel like when I'm entertaining people, I'm bridging some kind of gap and bonding people together. So that's how I felt growing up. So I assume that's what's happening when I do it. I don't think I'm just making you laugh because it's fun. I feel like this is how I'm introducing myself to you, and this is how we get together, and this is how we collectively come together, which you referencing Lowdown was huge because really, I don't think we liked each other that much until we started laughing and making fun of each other and lightening the mood. That's when you start creating family. That's when you start appealing to other people on a level other than just, I know that person's name and face, but you feel like you know that person when you laugh with them. Right. I've been in comedy club. I've been in clubs watching other comics laugh, and some dude sitting next to me look like he don't give a fuck about me, and then we laugh at the same thing and high-fiving each other and buying each other drinks just because we laughed at the same shit. Right. And that's huge. That's magical, man. There's something about comedy that nothing else so emotionally and so visceral can connect people without knowing anything else about a person.
I agree. So I got to say, it does break boundaries for sure.
Absolutely. Race.
I got to bring up a point because you say that we're gonna take it back to Hampton, right? Okay. And I'm gonna tell you, this is what I say because you mentioned, I don't think we liked each other today, and I mean everybody. I know you wouldn't just talk about me.
Fuck all y'all hoes.
But specifically, and you're gonna love this reference. We decided to play football on the football field, on the marching field. Me and you, and we try to line up. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't remember this.
You don't remember this?
I don't remember this at all.
So we're telling this story, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. So he don't even remember this, but this is a pivotal moment to me.
Don't lie on me, Donnie. Don't lie.
Okay. So look, marching field. And our marching band field wasn't padded or nothing. It wasn't like a soft like turf. It was asphalt. It was straight up. We in the parking lot, right? But it's chalked off. And so we decide because we feeling ourselves. I'm upperclassman. I'm like, hey, Duncan, come here. Because I used to call him Duncan. Duncan, come here. And then sat him out in front of me. So we line up like we going like he a tackle, I'm a tackle. And we go head to head. I don't even know why I decided to do that. That wasn't even the best move for me. And literally, we did one of these, and he kept going, but I did one of these and fell over in front of the entire band.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Tell the people the weight difference. They don't know how big I was.
Yeah, no. Hey, listen. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, and how small I was too, because I was like 130 pounds maybe. Yeah. So it was just one of those things as to where it's like, it just didn't go the way you thought it would. But it it was that moment right there that I was like, I love this guy. Because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna always remember this moment as what not to do. He just got a scenario situation,
it obviously it didn't matter a rat's ass to me because I forgot entirely. Apparently,
this is what
but
I'm saying.
It changed your perception of me. Is what I'm trying to say.
And even now, it's still what it is. It doesn't go the way you think it's gonna go. You know?
Bro, that shit was hilarious. That was hilarious. Were you in the room when we roasted each other for like 8 to 10 hours that night? It was the four of us. It was me and my line and Pete, and we were up. You couldn't have been there because you would have remembered it, dude. Like, quick story. I'll try to make it as quick as possible.
That's right.
We had to share rooms, and you all know when we were in the band, if one of us had to do it, all of us had to do it.
Yep.
So they put us in a room, 2 queen-size beds, 4 grown-ass Negroes. And we were at that age, we're like, look, I'm not sleeping in a bed with another man, I'm sorry. And we were there 2 nights. So we're like, this is what makes sense. Listen, number 1 and number 2 will take the bed the first night. And then number 3 and number 4 will take the bed the second night. And we'll alternate. So 2 of us slept on the floor every night. 2 of us slept on the bed every night. If they ask, where did you all sleep? We all slept on the floor. We all slept on the bed. Makes logical sense. We had signed off on it. We were ready. So we're about to go to bed, man. It's like maybe 11 p.m. Knock on the door. I'm like, oh shit, who is this? Go to open the door. Pete comes in, upperclassman, like section leader. He like, I'm sleeping in here tonight. And we all look at each other because mathematically, that shit is not gonna add up.
Right.
Damn, it's a 5th. Woo! That throws everything off. Not to mention the part about if one of us do it, all of us got to do it.
Right.
So Pete claims this is my bed. Nobody else sleeping in this bed but me. So, yeah, well, that's fair. He gets in that bed. The rest of us sleep on the floor because, again, we refuse to sleep in the bed. Now it's going to have to be 4 deep. I'm not spooning 3 other Negroes.
Right. Especially y'all was all girthy and big in height and the whole 9, bro. So it was like, okay.
I don't even think the band could have supported what we were hearing in there. So we're on the floor. Donnie, I'm not exaggerating, dude. Like for 8 hours straight, we were roasted each other because nobody could really sleep. We were so tired that we started those off, but then you'd hear somebody chuckling like, and then I think Tony called me Fat Sajak.
Yeah.
And that started the whole shit off. It was just hilarious, man. I thought you were there. That's the only reason I brought it up, but you couldn't have been because the numbers don't add up.
Yeah, but road trips, you're
doing things. You're doing things.
We're not even gonna say.
That's fine. Don't incriminate yourself, sir.
And
I think of this, man. As many of these videos have you done, like these are going down in cinematic history, right? These don't go away regardless of how popular they are. Whether we go viral tonight or nobody ever sees this shit, it still exists in the ether.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
So it's forever.
It's hilarious, man. It's hilarious. So what you're doing is great, man. You killing it. You are killing it, though, bro. Me and the wife sat upstairs and we watched the interview with My Feet Are Killing Me, Dr. Ebony.
Yeah.
We love that. They got a new season. Shout out to My Feet Are Killing Me. We're watching it right now.
Shout out to HU, man. We doing that thing, man.
And then you're beating white people on Wheel of Fortune. You amazing, dude. I said, look, Donnie do got the beats. He beating the whites.
Look, you know what's funny about that? The racial tone for that show for me afterwards I found out was huge because I just went there and tried to do my best to win.
You won.
And it was everybody was like, "Oh man, you gotta beat that dude, man! You did it, man!" Like they feel like we arrived.
We felt like you freed the slaves, Don. It was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. That shit was amazing.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
So I'm proud of you, man. You killing it. Whatever you're doing, keep killing it.
All right, man. Play more where that came from. Trust me. You'll be on with it with me too, for sure.
I love it. I'm there. So it's hard to answer that question, who is De'Mun, but I feel that the audience can gather that from my answer.
Yeah. Oh, the glorious answer it was.
Yes.
Now you mentioned it. You mentioned these next two questions, but I want specificity with these questions.
Let's go.
Growing up in Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
what was it like for you growing up through those times, especially in the deep South?
Yeah.
And overcoming all types of hurdles to become the success that you are today. What was it like for you?
Alabama, I always tell people, was 20 years behind in times, no matter what decade you're looking at. So I grew up in like 1980 to 96. I was born in 78, but give me 2 years to know where the hell I am in life.
Right.
So Alabama 1980 felt like 1960 to me. I mean, we were progressive enough. You could walk into a restaurant and have a table and sit down and eat, but it never felt like you were welcome. So
Right.
I think that actually created a psychology for me to, when you walk into a room, be able to read a room better than a lot of people,
Right.
because you're welcome to come into a place doesn't mean you're welcome in the place. And I got a lot of that growing up. So, and I was always overweight too. So I remember walking into the cafeteria, and they'd be like, "The fat boys are back." So just walking into the room had a big deal of my personality sculpted, and whether it was race, class, weight, whatever. And I'm convinced that is why I don't have a lot of stress when I walk on stage, because a lot of my life was built around entering a room that I didn't feel welcome in. Mm-hmm. And when you don't feel welcome in it, that tension that so many people complain about when they walk on stage, saying, or the fear of public speaking being one of the greatest fears, I just didn't have it, because I think I got acclimated through my life and just not being or learning how to deal with the stress of walking into a unwelcoming space. And that's what the whole state of Alabama felt like to me. It felt like an unwelcome space for someone who was Black and trying to be progressive. So when I went to, I left Tuscaloosa growing up in Alabama, left Tuscaloosa and went to school in Hampton, as you mentioned. I got to say that was a bigger eye opener for me than anything, because the reason I went to Hampton, twofold. I wanted to go to a HBCU, and I wanted to get out of the South. So the South has 80-90% of the HBCUs are in the South. Right. So I know Virginia is not really the North, but if you're in Alabama and you drive 13 miles north, you feel like you're up north. Right. And then on top of that, you start meeting people from PG County. You start meeting people from New Jersey. You start meeting people from New York. The culture is a Northern culture, right, because I'm so acclimated to the South. When I meet people wearing gray sweats and Timberland boots, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? How is that appropriate? Right. What is DDTP stand for? I still don't know what that stands for.
I don't even. I'm from PG County, so
bruh. So I will say that Alabama, it gave me a callus, like an emotional callus, where I felt like I wasn't welcome a lot of places. So I wanted to go somewhere I felt like I would be welcome. Mm-hmm. And Hampton was that. But at the same time, it had a nepotistic type of relationship. Like if you didn't have alumni, or if you didn't have parents that went there, if you weren't the in crowd, even at HU, there was an elitism to it that I didn't fit in again. So I ended up transferring for that reason. I felt like I could have gone further if I had been whatever the hell you had to be to click. I don't know if they're still like that, and I don't want to downplay the school's importance, because it's a great university. But I definitely felt like at some point I started to have those same overwhelming feelings, like they're not really pulling for me. Right. But they do pull for me more than where I came from. So Alabama really taught me to watch out for environments that I'm not welcome in, and to learn how to move in the room full of vultures, dare I say.
I love that inference. I really do. I too felt that. I felt that. But I've always had a monkey on my back. I felt that I've literally never been comfortable in anywhere I've been. Mm-hmm. I've always felt like, people either doubt me more than I would like, or that I pale in comparison to everybody else's expectations. So that's why I'm always locked and loaded, ready to go.
And I'm be honest, I picked up on that about you a long time ago in our interactions. But what I really love, and still to this day love about you, is so many people don't feel like they belong. And what their first reaction is to destroy the organization that they don't feel they belong in. By destroy, I just mean as far as reputation is concerned or integrity, just make them look like they're less important because they don't fit in, not because it's truly, an underwhelming organization. You never did that. I always felt like you didn't feel like you fit in, but you motivated yourself and you used that as like a fuel to go do your own thing. And usually you would get up to whatever degree of respect and admiration the entity that you didn't fit into was, or surpass it. So you're one of those inspirations in that. And I don't know if I ever told you, but I will say this. You're one of those inspirations for me that when you don't feel you fit in, don't just be like, fuck them, they ain't shit. Be like, let me prove to myself that I can do everything I needed them to do on my own, but I gotta put that battery in my back. It don't come from a desire. It's not just will, it's will plus the effort that you put in. And you've always put will behind it. And I'll be honest, it took a lot longer because you're doing it by your damn self. I don't know you being in any cliques. I don't know you being in any organizations. I don't know you associated with a bunch of other people. You kept a small circle, but your shit was always real fly and tight. It would just take you longer. And I understand why as a grown man now, because when you're doing it by your damn self and you really don't feel like you can look to anybody to give you a handout or a hand up, it is challenging. And I don't think our youth does that. I don't think our youth applies the amount of time it takes to be progressive and to get what you want if it don't go viral the first minute. You know what I mean? If it don't get hot out of the gate, they kind of be like, I'm out. It ain't for me, or they won't even say it out loud, but they just don't apply themselves for the long game. And you've always been good at that. You played a very good long game. So I commend you for that. Shout out. That's the beat and everything else you touch. It's a long game, so it's going to take a little longer, but I know you and I know how you move. It's going to be successful.
I appreciate that, man. It was definitely kind words. And I mean, I think you're spot on. I mean, that's really, really all it boils down to. Like I said, I wasn't handed anything. And I experienced even from being above the Mason-Dixon line. It's always been hard for me. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I don't know anything else other than to just make the best of bad situations. You know what I mean? And just keep, like you said, keep it moving. Keep your nose, to the fire. And keep it moving. So. That's neither here nor there, but this ain't about me, brother. Let's get back to you. Let's do it. The second question that you mentioned, but I want more specificity, is how did you actually get started in comedy? Because you mentioned that it pretty much came together in your household, by way of watching comedy and so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. But how did you get your break? What was the catalyst that was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go do this, man.
Damn good question. It was Jerome Alvin Garrett. Okay. Jerome Alvin Garrett actually played bass for Ruben Studdard, if you remember him from American Idol. Yep. And he now has an amazing singing career himself. He's really huge in the Southeast. His home is Alabama, I believe. He's still there. Back when we went to high school together, I was in high school, and I just had a smart mouth. I didn't click up with people. I didn't have a group of friends that I was clicked with. I would move around to all the other cliques and entertain them. So, and that ended up describing my comedy a little bit, because I always thought to myself, keep in mind it's Alabama. I don't know if the cafeterias were like this in PG County, but straight down the middle, you had the black kids and the white kids. Mm-hmm. And there was never any intermingling. And it would bother me that the adults were okay with that. Like, we kids, we stupid. We supposed to be here to learn. We're fine doing this. If it was up to us, we walk on the table and take other people's food, really. Right. It's only because of you all that we don't do that. So at the same rate, why is it okay for us to divide ourselves like this in 1996? You know what I mean? That was crazy to me. So I would still cross the line. I'll call it cross the train tracks. I would cross the train tracks and go entertain the goth kids that were dressed in all black, listening to, I don't know,
Rob Zombie. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. You see how my blackness just kicked in. I don't even know what example to give you of the goth kids' music. you did. Good job, Johnny. Good job. But my point is, at that time, I would do enough to entertain them. I get a big laugh out of that table. And then it was like a merry-go-round. I would just hit every table. All I wanted was a big laugh. I couldn't get a chuckle from this one person or two people. I needed like 8 to 10 people to laugh at the same thing at once and keep it moving. I didn't even realize I was doing that because other people were watching me and they'd be waiting on me to get to their table. So Jerome, good friend of mine, and he's probably one of the most talented people in the world because he played football. He was a physical phenomenon as well as a musical phenomenon. We had our senior cookout, and he was like, "Hey, D, we got 15-minute time slots for the cookout, and our band is only going to be able to play 10 minutes. Why don't you come on stage while we're getting ready or right after we finish and just say something funny so everybody laughed?" Because he knew I had the capability of doing it from watching me do my rounds every day.
Right.
And I'm like, I never even thought about doing that on stage. It never occurred to me. Even going back to the story I just told you about sitting in the room with my parents watching comedians all the time, it still never occurred to me that I could do that. Mm-hmm. But when he said it and he was like, "We got a microphone and you'll get 5 minutes." I was like, 5 minutes? That sounds like forever, right?
Right.
5 minutes. Little do I know, my lunch hour would be like 45 minutes. I was entertaining people for 4 times that amount. Right. Check the math on that. I don't know if 4 times 5 is 45, but it felt right.
You get the point.
You get the point. So I went up on, I remember that whole week. He told me this on a Friday. And the Saturday after that, not the next day, but the week after that, we had the senior cookout. So I had all week just to write stuff down. And this is during the Comic View era where everybody was doing black people do this and white people do this. So that's what I went with. I went with what worked. And as you can guess, it came around. I got up on stage and I murdered that set. But I don't think the white people liked it as much because they were the butt of many of my jokes. Right. So many of them. But the security guard was like, "Hey man, that's the funniest thing I seen. How many times you done this?" I said, "This is the first time, sir. It's the first time." So after that, I felt like I had made it. I felt like I was a comedian. Like nobody could tell me that I wasn't already that. And I didn't perform again until I went to Hampton and I got into a competition that Russell Simmons was involved with. It was huge. It was in New York. And that was my second time. And I had to fly up there and do it. But it all started from that cookout with Alvin Garrett.
Wow, that's an interesting story, and I never even knew about you flying to New York either. That's crazy.
That would have been my sophomore year, so you must have been like a junior. Yeah. But I knew that would have been my third performance, so I didn't bring a lot of attention up because I didn't know what to expect from it. I was like, nobody knows what's going to happen here. It was 3 performances. I started by going to Richmond and made it through. It was tiers. I made it through the first phase. Kevin Hart was the host. And I went through the second one. It was back in Richmond. Kevin was the host of that as well. And it went really well because by then I started to understand what I could and couldn't do, couldn't say. But by the time they sent me to New York, I was not prepared for New York and got booed like the best of all boos happened to me on that night. You call it the worst or the best, depending on if you see the glass half full or half empty. I'm a half full glass man myself. So it was the best boo I could have gotten.
Okay.
Because at the end of it, I remember saying to myself, "Yo, dog, this had to be the worst anybody could get booed, but I'm still gonna do this shit. I'm gonna keep it going. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing."
That's awesome. That's how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to take that nosedive and roll and get back up and fly again, man. That's awesome.
It's so many lessons to learn from our failures that I really feel like as long as your bomb isn't being filmed for a network show or as long as it's not for the masses, you're going to learn more from that bomb than you will from everything going right. It's almost like acing a test. If you ace that test, you don't have anything else to learn. So you're not challenging yourself. It's when you really failed at something or you lack an understanding of something is a better way of putting it, that you go back and you check what was wrong. Was my timing off? Did I say something wrong? Did I forget to say something that I should have said? Is this crowd just never going to like feminist jokes? What am I doing wrong? And then once you master the science of the art form, you go back in and you're more confident and you can kill it. That's why so many comedians film multiple sets for a Netflix special or HBO special, because something might go wrong in just one joke and the whole rest of the set is perfect. So you want another performance where that joke hits and you can edit it and tuck it into the whole rest and make it a cohesive, positive performance. But for artists, for us, when shit go wrong, man, sometimes that's how you grow. That's how you get better. And I will honestly say, every time I bombed, I always took it so hard that I went home, I stayed my ass up, I rewrote, I revisited, and I went right back to that same spot, and I burned the roof off the motherfucker. It was just, and I couldn't have done that well of a performance if I hadn't bombed recently. So
Right.
it's like the stock market. If you watch the stock market, it drops down, but overall, for you to make money, it's got to go up, 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 up. And your performance is a lot like that. It's not like it's not an escalator. It's never going to not go down. But if you're taking chances and you're doing what Dave Chappelle has done recently, you're going to grow in a way that you personally become a more developed person, so you can perform better because your personality is expressed on stage and you're growing through it. So it's designed for you to fail a little bit. It is. I'm gonna go further than most comics. And most comics say you have to bomb. Now you don't have to, but by design, just like life, if you're not failing, you're probably not taking chances.
Right.
And if you're not taking chances, you're not going to be great. You can be good. You can be a real good comic, but you can't be great. You can't be like, where is it? That dude, he took a lot of chances. And that's the kind of stuff I get inspired by. People who I'm drawn to are people who took major chances in life. Yourself, for instance. It's just one of those things where if you're not risking something, I really don't care what you're rewarding yourself with.
Glad you put it in that perspective. That was actually a question: who or what were your inspirations? But I think I'm going to park that. We're going to revisit that later on. I do want to ask this question though, and be it for me to I don't want to ask too personal of a question, but I got to ask: having a significant other on this path to figuring things out, as you say, you go out there, you bomb, you got to come home, you got to sit in a room, you got to figure it out, and get decompartmentalized. And I'm sure at times that's strenuous personally, right?
Yeah.
And so with regard to and like, how does that work for you personally? And again, not to say your business or anything like that, but for anybody else that's aspiring, how do they navigate that relationship with that significant other when they have to dedicate themselves that much to perfecting their craft?
Oh, that's a good one, D. That's a good one. I like it. I like that one a lot because I've had a lot of relationships while I was doing stand-up. Like, as you can see, my whole adult life has been doing stand-up. I just mentioned I started when I was like in high school, so 18. I'm 43 now. Any relationship I've been in, the person knew I was a comedian, or they knew I was going to get on stage and say some things.
Right.
I think the best advice in navigating a personal relationship while you're still doing comedy is the same advice you give anybody about a marriage or like how you make it work. You have to find somebody who's equally yoked. And I don't mean that they're funny like you. I mean that they see value in humor like you do. So they can be somebody who's just really intelligent and analyze stuff a lot. If they're analytical, they'll get humor because they're like, okay, what do you do? What was that? Why did you say that like that? And they'll see you more than once and be like, oh, you moved that over here. It's a puzzle. So if a person is likes putting puzzles together, analytical, they'll understand what a comedian is doing on stage. But that's only part of it. The part that you sound like you're asking me about is the time away from the household. How do you get somebody to sympathize with that or
even the time in the household? Because again, like you said, you got to come home, unpack everything that you've experienced. Like you said, move some things around. I'm sure that's not 20, 30 minutes, and it's like, oh, Eureka, I got it. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's true. And that's true. And shame on you for asking me this question. And I'm gonna tell you why, because I gotta watch this at some point with my wife. And I can see her sitting next to me, looking at me like, "Oh, so you're gonna talk?
You better answer right,
right? Answer this shit right." I'm like, okay. So this is gonna be fun as hell when I'm watching it with her later. I can feel the heat. My neck is hot right now. But with that being said, you do have to find the right person. If you find the right person, it's not that hard. Like Chris Rock once said, it's only hard to have a healthy relationship if one person is doing all the work. Like, it's easy to move a couch if two people are lifting the couch. But if only one person lifting it, it's hard as hell. It's the same concept. Like, if you're in the game together, if you both know, okay, listen, my goal is to either be the greatest comedian in the world or is to get paid as much as possible and create celebrity for myself. So depending on what I'm trying to do, I need your support in doing that. If you're just trying to make money, when you come home, she can ask, how much money did you make? And you be like, I ain't make no money, or I made $4,000, or whatever your answer is. Then she can support or not support whatever your goal is. But my goal has always been to be great at comedy. It hasn't been about basing it on economics or funds. It's always been go out there, do everything possible to be great, and come back and learn from it and work on it. So when I come home, she's gonna ask, I mean, what's good? How you doing? What you gonna do tonight? Or like, I'm still working day jobs to supplement the income so I can create opportunities for the comedy at night. If I come home from a day job and she's like, well, what you gonna do tonight? That question means, do you have comedy in mind? Are you going to write? You gonna get online and interview somebody? Or you going to a club to work out your set? What's going on? Do we make family time right now? What? And if my answer doesn't relate to comedy, then we kick it. We go somewhere, we dine, we might have drinks, we might go into the back, whatever. But you got to have the right person, because women don't really respond positively or negatively to you. They respond positively or negatively to your expectations. Like if they know what to expect,
good point. They
can make a plan around it, because they're planners. They're gatherers. We go hunt and they gather. You can't gather if you don't know what the fuck you got to gather with. Right. So all they need is to know what to expect. And if you can create a framework, listen, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm gonna go to a club of some sort and perform. Saturdays and Sundays will be hours or whatever. And bet if that's how you want to do it, great. Or you can say, look, I don't know what my schedule is going to be like, because this comedy world is so volatile. I'm just fitting in where I'm getting in where I fit in. So I'm going to just keep you posted on it. Well, okay, what does that mean for us? That means I can tell you by 9 p.m. what my 10 to 12 is going to look like. Okay, so before 9, are we good? I said, yes, we can do whatever before 9. Okay, bet. But again, it comes down to how you can plan to allow her to plan. Right. So if you don't give her any room to plan, she is going to be upset, or he or she is going to be upset. Men less so, because I think we don't need to anticipate what's going on as much as women do. But because they are gatherers, they want as much information as possible, and they want to be able to plan accordingly. So it helps, to answer your question, it helps to be on the same page with somebody, to let them know how to plan, because you give them the information, and to just find the right person, period, that is equally as ambitious, and they might be working towards their PhD or something, and you working towards your PhD in comedy, so they can get the idea of you investing a lot of time right now into something that won't pay out for years. Right. Or you're with somebody who's not motivated, and they're not ever going to understand you. And if that's the case, and you're not communicating to them, that's destined for failure. The equation just don't add up. So for me, it's been finding the right person. I've been through a divorce, and no disrespect to that woman, she was great at the time. But when I got to a point where I needed to get a different De'Mun result, I needed a different De'Mun supporter. And that De'Mun supporter I have right now is probably one of the best people I've met, in life. So of course I wanted them to be on the De'Mun Oakley team. Right.
There. You need that. You answered that very eloquently, brother.
I answered the hell out that one. I'm proud of myself.
You was in the vibe with me, man. He looking like Tyson Fury. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. The white dude.
So look, let's get to another part of the same, because I have a couple more questions, but I want people to see you in action. So I want to take this opportunity to showcase your sizzle reel. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to run this down. Check this out.
De'Mun Oakley, let's hear it for him. De'Mun.
Keep clapping for me, goddammit. Clap like you came to see. Dave Attell is not coming back. This is what you get.
Most recently, we had terrible events happen between two warring factions up north. It's ugly. Even our leaders reached out and said it was both sides' fault. Remember this. It's horrible and disgusting, racist and ugly.
Who else saw the Mayweather fight? That's all, wasn't it? That was ass whipping like no other. I hadn't seen that much hidden racism since Rocky III. I said, it's clever, man. I'm gonna ask a lot of other questions. Don't you answer. Because when I ask questions, I want general answers, not your answers. I don't call him Charles because we've been properly introduced. I call him Charles because he's in charge of that damn corner. You know how most homeless people just want a little spare change? Charles will tell you how much money you're going to pay him according to how nice your car is. I'll come on and say, you get it, brother, $10, $10, $10. Oh, it's a Range Rover, never mind, pull over Range Rover, $20. Oh shit, it's a Tesla. They are the best for $100 Tesla. For some reason, he only charged me $1. Charles is an asshole, is what I'm trying to say. And I shouldn't say this. This is where we go back into the church territory. This is the type of thing you only say to your friends that are racist or your family that loves you. But we're like family, that's what I'm sharing. I'm going to tell you, okay, I'm saying it. I don't trust homeless whites. That wasn't even a joke. I just stated the fact. I don't trust homeless whites. Because if you can't manage your white privilege better than that, you don't deserve it. You need to donate it to a Filipino family that's about to be deported. Crackhead appears in the newspaper. That's funny by itself. The governor said that a crackhead with PVC pipes on fire. Did I make this up? I didn't. Burn concrete to the ground with PVC pipes. I say bullshit because we all know you've never seen a crackhead have a problem like mine.
That part.
Hey,
There you go.
don't trust homeless whites, Donnie.
Hey, look, you can't bet at your white privilege better than. I was like, kudos. That's a very good point.
Full of white people. The house was full of whites.
now I gotta walk up and I'm in LA. I gotta side eye everybody. Yeah, man. But like I said, this is the type of stuff I'm talking about, man. You present very well on stage, man. I like your resolve, man. Like you said, it's just you have this thing. Like when you get on stage, it's just like you can see some people like they either overly aggressive or they just kind of, I don't know. I feel like they kind of take you on a ride, and sometimes you don't always want to go on that ride.
I feel what you're saying.
You know what I mean? But you just kind of just like, and this is what I do, and I love it. It's awesome. Seriously.
It's a lot of tension that comes with just walking onto the stage, not performing comedy, just walking onto a stage. You feel tense, and like I always think of that. Who played Kramer in Seinfeld? Michael Richards, I think that was his name. Yeah. Michael Richards. The response that he had that really ended his career, I'm convinced so much of that was it was a subconscious bias he had against Black people. A lot of people in America have that, but also the tension of you losing a crowd. Like they start turning on you for other reasons. It has nothing to do with what you're saying. They just don't like you because your energy is wrong. Like you just said, feel like they're taking you on a ride you don't want to be on. I feel like if your energy is off in a room that the crowd won't connect with you, you can make the mistake of lashing out and just panicking. And every time I watch that, it looks like panic to me. It just looks like somebody drowning, grabbing for anything. You know how you drown? I want anything. And when you have a subconscious bias against any group of people, that spurts out of you because so many times you can say inappropriate things on stage and it comes out as funny. So you get that opportunity to say something crazy, but you don't realize that crowd ain't having it. And
Yeah.
and that's really what happened because of the tension. There's so much tension on that stage, man. And it comes out. If you just walk on the stage like one night after the show, everybody gone. Not you, you're quite skilled. I'm talking to your audience. If y'all just step foot on a stage that you don't belong on, you'll feel what I'm saying. It's some tension there. It's joy too because there's lights and shit, but that tension is real and it gets magnified when people are expecting you to make them laugh.
Right.
So,
Right. Let me ask you a real quick question, and we're gonna get into hot topics. What are you currently working on? What are your current projects? And is it true that you have some projects that you've been associated with on Roku as well as Netflix?
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I did several interviews for a program called Behind the Laughter on Roku. I was able to interview some comics that are up and coming. I want to say, I'm just drawing a blank. It's been so long ago. COVID did a funny thing to us. It like made me press pause on my stand-up because they really yanked the rug out from under a lot of our comics.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a big name, if you're a celebrity that people knew, you could still get booked pretty easily. But like the feature comics, like there's 3 levels really. Your opener, feature, or headliner. And the openers are really new. They're usually right after the host. And then the feature is the person that will usually give you about 35, 40 minutes. And the headliner do 45 and more. So the feature comics, you'll see them open for your headliners. They come out right before them. We got hit pretty hard because there wasn't enough income to support us in the comedy clubs. The headliners were the ones that still had the draw, bring people out. But the headliners weren't interested in taking that kind of risk because we didn't know yet how to deal with COVID. So they were just sitting down, meaning no one was really working. So by the time I got back, it was like, get in where you fit in, find room for comedy, regardless of what it is. So I found that working with the GEI network, I was able to host a interview show they had, much like your own, but just finding comedians that I could interview. So you can still see that on the Roku platform. It's under Behind the Laughter. I think it's only 2 or 3 of them because it got short-lived also. But I had some really great interviews on there. It's another one I think I'll put on YouTube. I'll talk to you about that offline. But so much of the funniest things that happen are inappropriate. And that one was one I didn't want to associate with the network or any platform because if the heat comes on, I take the heat myself.
Right.
But that, and I got a chance to work with one of my comedy mentors. Somebody, I wouldn't say a mentor because he don't know I exist, but I look to him a lot for delivery and stage presence. It would be Rory Scovel. I think Rory might be out of Chicago. Don't quote me on that. But if you Google Rory and you're not familiar with him, the way he takes the stage, and Rory will make a set out of nothing. I know he was in Nashville once, and there was a stage prop ladder just on the stage, and he made like a 10-minute bit out of just climbing up this ladder. And that might not be hilarious to a lot of people, but to me, knowing how, again, keep in mind that tension that lives on that stage and to walk on it and have that degree of relaxation and to pull out material off a ladder, that's hilarious, man. I've seen him walk through a crowd, like where people's chairs are, stadium seating, just literally stand over somebody with his crotch in somebody's face. This is obviously only white humor you can get away with. You don't do this in a black room. But the shit was hilarious, man. So I had the pleasure of being able to appear in one of his special things called Rory Scovel Tries Stand Up for the First Time. I was a trash man at the end. Don't stop the footage at the end of the show. Wait till the closing credit. The last credit, you'll see me. That's me. So I got to do that and participate in it, do some construction there as well. But I just like to be a part of comedy. It's a culture that I love so much, and I like to write. I was talking to you a little earlier. I'll use Beverly Hills Cop as an example. People don't realize how dramatic a movie Beverly Hills Cop is if you remove Eddie Murphy from the whole scene. Like all the scenes that are funny are only funny because Eddie punched them up. Absolutely. If you take Eddie Murphy out of Beverly Hills Cop, you have a Sylvester Stallone movie. Right. And it's a well-written, that's not an insult. It's a well-written action movie, but you take a well-written action movie and add America's funniest comedian at the time into that, you're left with nothing but genius. So that's why it's lasted the test of time, because it really benefits comedians as writers or performers of any sort if you give us a meaty script. If you give us something that's dramatic, even a horror movie can be made comical. Anything that has a lot of legs that can live on, give it to a comedian and they can find humor in it. So that's why I used Cop as an example, because it had a lot of legs. It was a well-written story. You know, if you think about from beginning to end, Axel's friend gets shot and killed in Detroit, and he goes to find who's killing him.
Yeah.
And so you got the cultural aspect. You know, you got economics. Detroit was a poor, impoverished city, but he goes to Beverly Hills Cop, so he's fish out of water. But it's also a black man in a wealthy part of town. It's so much there to write about. It could have been a drama, but they punched it up, made it hilarious. And that's a lot of the momentum that I look for when I write. I'm not looking for something funny because A, my style might be different than the comedic style that's already written on page. And B, some of the best jokes come from the tension of something dramatic or something dark. And it's just like a rubber band. You get that tension, you pull back and you release. That's where the humor is.
Right.
So,
and you know it's funny because that's my humor is dark like that. Like just my natural humor. Like a lot of people, like my close friends and family, they can't stand me because like I'll laugh at a severe situation, and I'm just like, man, you ain't see the way he just felt. Like that was hilarious. Like and you know whatever. But I understand, like you said, the elasticity of people's patience and stuff, because you can draw from different kinds of muses. You know what I mean? And my I liken, like you said, Ghostbusters. I mean, you said Beverly Hills Cop. I said Ghostbusters. Yeah, that is the same thing. It's just like a very well written story that has legs, but you know,
that's a very good example. That's a very good example, because the first thing I thought of when you said Ghostbusters was the library scene, like before they're officially Ghostbusters and they're still college students just trying to figure out what they're gonna do, and they go inspect the library for ghosts. Yeah. When they're walking downstairs and the ghost is already just floating around and shit, it's scary, man. Right. If you didn't know you were watching a comedy and you came into that movie at that point and you hear the music, and you watching these people walk, oh shit, it's about to be Poltergeist or something. Yeah. It feels like Poltergeist. And then, you know, Bill Murray's like, Ray, what do we do? That's when the comedy is.
Exactly. Get her.
Get her. Really? No, dog. Can you imagine being you walking downstairs and be like, Donnie, what we gonna do now?
Like, you gonna find out if I do.
Get the fuck out of here, bro. Exactly. Get a picture. Get a picture real quick before we run. That's the best I'm gonna do. And that, you know what that makes me think of? Ghostbusters is the perfect analogy, by the way, because when you think of the Ghostbusters remake that came out like 2 years ago with Melissa McCarthy, to me that was shitty. Like that movie was horrible to me.
It just they shouldn't. It should have just been another movie. They should have just titled it something else,
something completely different. And Ghost Chasers, anything. Yeah. However, they're releasing another Ghostbusters movie. I think at the end of this year. It looks great, and why does it look great? Because it looks dramatic. It looks like there's some legs to it. It looks like it's not just corny silliness. They actually have a story, and it looks like a director who has a dramatic eye appeal to understand how to approach family movies and make it interesting. And then that could add the comedy at the end with the Rudd dude, whatever his name, Judd Rudd. I don't know his name.
Paul Rudd. They would. I mean, you would hope so, because the director and the producer is the son of the guy that directed and produced the original.
It sure is. Reitman, right? Yeah. I forget. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So you better. I wish my son would take over the beat and the beat.
Shit on
my grave in this. Like, what are you doing? Yeah.
Start interviewing country stars.
Like, just not the desired effect. I mean.
He changed it to the upbeat. It's called the upbeat. It ain't down.
All right, man. Let's go. Let's shoot over the my favorite segment called the Hot Topics.
Yeah.
Hang on. Technical difficulty.
You got another intro for the Hot Topics? Is that what we're about to do?
And we didn't have to cut them off because yes, we did. We got intros galore here at the beat. Donnie B got the intro.
How did you do that?
So We're gonna start with the first question, De'Mun Oakley. 3 things you didn't know. What's 3 things that the world does not know about De'Mun Oakley, or 3 things that you'd like to clarify that people keep getting wrong and they need to put some respect on your name?
Word. 3 things. Okay. Oh man. These are great questions, brother. I think that coincidentally, like my last 4 or 5 bombs, I said 4 or 5. That's how many I get out. I think my last 4 or 5 bombs have always been in the black room.
Okay.
So it looks like I'm struggling in these black rooms when that's not the case. Like I will go in and I'll be honest, I have a bigger problem with like the way I got on the show. Like if someone I really respect invites me on the show, or if it's a high paying gig that says that they really want me on the show. But like if I had to ask somebody to get some time and they make me feel like you know I'm not wanted there, I don't give my best. I don't want to be there either, even though I asked to be there. If that makes any sense.
It makes sense.
So you're not seeing the whole story sometimes. Sometimes it's the business behind the comedy. And it does affect the performance on stage, at least my performance. I'll speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody.
Of course.
So
if somebody throw a bad alley-oop, you can't dunk it right.
You can't dunk it right. Perfect analogy. Thank you. And I've gotten a lot of bad alley-oops in black rooms. So I'll say that. And it's a reflection of the alley-oop more so than just my skill set. So I do feel like in white rooms, and it's a socioeconomic problem because we just don't have the income that, you know, our white counterparts do. So a lot of times we have volunteers, we have people who are underpaid, we have people who are undertrained, underskilled. They just don't want to be there themselves. So I'm getting a reflection of how society has, treated us like lesser people. And it's reflected on the business of it. Whereas a lot of the white rooms have so many resources. Even if it's only 3 people employed there, they're getting paid well. They know what to do. They've been doing it for years. And there's some type of resources surrounding it to make it a better show. So I feel more welcome at those places, not because I'm liking the white room more than the black. It's run better because they have the better resources. So that's not a reflection on the club as much as it is society as a whole we need to work on. So 1, 2, and 3, I feel like the 3 things they won't know is I destroy black rooms when I want to be in that motherfucker when I'm welcome there. Shout out to the Stardome in Birmingham, Alabama. I love that room. And sometimes the problem that we see in black-owned places is not a black issue. That's the second thing. I'm aware of this. That's something you don't know about me. I'm aware that even when I complain about black issues, it's not a black cause from that issue. It's a socioeconomic disparity that's created that we are catching the tail end of, and we need to address that seriously. I'm aware of that, and I work on it as much as I can. And they might not know how much effort I put into being socially conscious about my jokes. Yeah, that's the third one, because you walk away and you can laugh at something I just said, but hopefully you think about what I said and realize the social importance behind it too. So that's a big deal to me.
Okay. Good answer. Good. Very thorough answers. Very good.
Long-winded is what you're trying to say.
Right. That's true. I take long-winded all day. You know,
dude.
Give you short answers. They'd be like, really? Like, whatever. They ain't got no word for that. What's the most outlandish thing that you can think of right now that's happened or is happening that you just like, come on, now, really? Like, it's ridiculous. You know, it could be the little non-sex baby bump. It could be, you know, Urban Meyer with his lap dance session in the middle of the day on his own restaurant. What's your one situation?
Like, they ain't got no award for the best unknown comedians.
Okay.
Like, if I go up to 100 black people and ask them to name their 5 favorite comedians, I promise these are comedians that have been around for 20 years or more and are great. I'm not taking anything away from the greats.
Okay.
Even if it's somebody who you're not considering the Mount Rushmore, even we're not talking about the top 5. I mean, if someone says a Dion Cole or D. Ray Davis, these are brilliant, great comics too. But these dudes got 20 years under their belt. Don't get it twisted.
Right.
I'm talking about the dude who's got 20 years under his belt, and you don't even know his name, and he's crushing it. Like they ain't got no award for that. And I'd love to throw names up, but I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to disrespect a comedian for, you know, not doing enough or not being where he could be or not being compared to the names I just mentioned. But I will say, I know 13 comedians in Atlanta, Georgia, that are funnier than your favorite comedian, whoever your favorite comedian is. Maybe not Chappelle. Let's take him out of that.
Okay.
Other than Dave, maybe Bill Burr is excluded too. The rest of them, I can name you 13 that are here right now that you probably don't know their name that are funnier than.
Which, you know, and this is not scripted, ladies and gentlemen. This is all happening organically. You nailed the next question. What's top 5? What's your top 5 under? Now, most people say what are the top 5 of X and X and O, but what are the top 5 underheralded people?
Okay, underrepresented, like they don't get the credit they deserve. Top
Absolutely.
5, like definitely comedian. I'll start there. Okay, are we gonna do just the comedian?
Comedian.
Okay, top 5 underheralded. You want their names? Shit. Oh man. I follow everybody. So, and I'm telling your audience, not you. When you see a black comedian, the first thing you think is that a black comedian only follows other black comedians. So my top 5, you instantly think I'm gonna say black people. That's not the case. I have a mad love for so many people. I've studied everybody from Lenny Bruce to Charlie Chaplin. And shout out to Charlie Chaplin, because of all the comedians I've ever seen, I don't even know if you can call him a comedian or a comedic actor, but I can't think of any other comedian that could deliver that kind of humor without speaking to you. Because our voice is underrated, man. That's all we got. We go on stage and grab a microphone. Imagine if you can't even talk and you got to express a joke with just your physical humor. That's amazing. Like I can't think of but like 2 people who've done that. Like Rowan Atkins did it as Mr. Bean for a long time when he wouldn't speak. And then Charlie Chaplin crushed it. So I'm gonna throw Charlie Chaplin in only because he's not mentioned like Pryor's mentioned of Bill Burr. So Charlie Chaplin is my number 1, top 5 under. My number 2, it would definitely be Marvin Hunter.
Okay.
I say Marvin Hunter because you may not know who Marvin Hunter is, but you should. He's probably one of the most premier comedians in Atlanta right now. He's touring all over the country. If you Google him, you can find him near your city, wherever you are. Just phenomenal. He's a Navy vet, so he's got a depth of understanding in life. But I have never seen Marvin not destroy a room. And I mean any room he's in. And you know how comedians will have material that you've heard before, maybe even 10 years, 20 years, same material.
Right.
Marvin goes on that stage with new material every time I see him. I've seen him as soon as like a week apart, do 20, 30 minutes, brand new material, crush, and then run down to Stardome in Birmingham, destroy it. Punchline, destroy it. Uptown Comedy Club, urban venue, destroy it. It's something to be said about a comic that it don't matter where you put them, they tear the roof off of it. So I'll list Marvin as my second, right behind Charlie Chaplin. Okay. And everybody knows who Carlos Miller is by now. Mm-hmm. But I gotta mention Carlos Miller for that reason alone, because he's the way I just described Marvin. Carlos is that same person. We have a club in Atlanta, Cats Cafe, I think it's called. Every Tuesday they do stand up, and you get all the premier urban comics will come through Cats. And Carlos was the original host of Cats, so you could go see Carlos for free if you're in Atlanta. And I saw him, even though I'm a performer, I wouldn't even go there to perform. I go there to watch Carlos. Mm-hmm. And shout out to the 85 South Show. They are destroying right now. But in my opinion, it's really Carlos that's easily top 5 under. So we got
3.
Chaplin, Marvin Hunter, Carlos Miller.
Yep.
Vanessa Fraction, because women don't get shout out at all. Vanessa's a Chicago comedian that's a transplant. She's here in Atlanta now, been here for a while. Great performer. She's physical. She's mental. She goes in your head. She sounds like she's been around a lot of guys in the locker room listening to what they say, because it's not a female perspective, but she's a female. She sounds like she's talking our language, but through a woman's viewpoint. I love Vanessa, man. Her comedy is it. I don't ever want to compare her to someone else because they do that too much for women, especially. But it's groundbreaking. It's smart. It's witty. It's fierce. She's not afraid to do anything on stage, and I love to see her break out and make it. And staying true to Atlanta comedy, I gotta say Rodney Perry, man. Rodney Perry's down here. Just he's the father of everything I just said. If we didn't have Rodney Perry, I don't believe stand-up in Atlanta would have developed the way it has, where you got monsters. I would put Atlanta comedians up against any other city, including New York, for just funny. You're not going to hear the names that you're accustomed to because New York has, a arm of celebrity where they can get stuff booked, they can get shows produced and created. And Cali has the same thing. If you want to make a show or make a production, California is going to have it. So you hear about these comedians much more because they have outlets that are richer and fuller. But Atlanta still developed, besides Tyler Perry Studios and the Marvel movies, you really don't have a comic view anymore. You don't have a Def Jam anymore. You don't have an outlet that's going to introduce you to these comedians, which is my whole point about 20-year-old comics. In the Black community, we're still referencing comics from 20 years ago because there's no outlet to keep us current on comics who are in the scene right now. And that's not our fault. That's the media needs to create another avenue for us. And until that happens, you just won't know who Carlos Miller really is. You will never get to meet a Marvin Hunter, a Vanessa Fraction, and you won't be reminded of how fierce Rodney Perry is. The last time you saw him might have been on Monique's show as the side host, where he deserves his own show and deserves to be what he is to the nation, what he is to Atlanta, to the nation. Because to Atlanta, when we see Rodney Perry, we know to tip our hat. We know that that's a godfather of comedy, and he deserves a lot more praise than he's getting. Right. Not to complain and not to sound ungrateful, but when you ask me to list my five, that's where I go.
No, and that's well received and well respected. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, as somebody who lives and breathes the art. You know what I mean? So totally understand that. Totally understand that. And for purpose of time, I have to truncate the rest of the hot topics questions, but we got a couple more other things to go into, and then we can let you about your way.
We got to leave space. We got to leave space for the intros. Let's make sure that we get these hot intros.
You got to explore the studio space. It needs more intros. It needs more intros.
Let these intros fly, bro. Roll that beautiful bean footage, Daddy.
Unfortunately, I don't. I do need one for the current events, but thank you. Thank you for exposing a glaring hole in my production. But I do want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Gator Man?
Oh my God! Look, dude, I just saw it.
We gonna run this for those that don't know what the Gator Man is. What we gotta. I'm gonna play it, and we just gotta watch. Okay,
please.
You're like, ah.
Hey, bro, back up. Don't go in the water.
So apparently, the Gator Man is he was or is a part of the U.S. military. He's affiliated with the U.S. military.
Damn right he is.
Active. But he, when they interviewed him, he said he was just doing it because he felt he needed to protect his daughter. I could be erroneous with this, but this is what I take from this information. Which kudos, because I'm a dad too. So I mean, I'm like, I gotta go out here and go do this. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? But what is your thoughts on the Gator Man?
I never knew that taking out the trash could be a life-altering experience. Dude, the beauty of it was when he let the lid slam shut.
Right.
He had half of the gator in the trash. So at any point, the gator could have made a U-turn and fucked up everybody's plans.
Right.
But by throwing the lid down, it acted as a distraction. It punched him in the back, first of all. So it punched him in the back. It punches him in the back. He then reacts, oh shit, let me fight harder, and goes into the hole, which traps him himself. So without that lid, the plan would have failed, I promise you. It would have been a U-turn at some point, or he would have backed that thing up like Juvenile and just been like, I'm coming out this. It would have been ugly. But throwing that lid down that's where his military training came in. That's where he must have been a Navy SEAL, because Gators like SEALs. He must have known that shit. He threw that shit the right time, and the Gator got in there. He took that shit out. It was brilliant, man.
We're gonna play by play.
Watch the lid. Okay, my mouth is open. I bite the shit out you right now.
You gonna take this?
Right. That's what he went in. You see? Got for the lid. Got him. I got a new phrase, man. I got a new phrase in life. But not for the lid.
But not for
but not for the lid.
I got you.
That was the motivation. That was his motivation.
Yeah, that is single-handedly. That's my. They ain't got no word for that. That's like,
they ain't got no word for that.
It's like, how do you? Huh?
What would your approach have been if you had to wrangle a gator? What goes through your mind as the best way to handle a gator without risking your life and limbs?
I don't got. All right. So I guess let's go ask him. Ain't that what they said? Lethal Weapon 4. Let's go ask him. I'm gonna get my ass whooped, but let's go ask him. Like, I don't have a trash can on deck with wheels in the lid, so I'd have to do this off the cuff, But hey, maybe a cardboard box might suffice, maybe. I don't know. Might not have the same outcome, maybe.
Maybe throwing a wet blanket on him would slow him down enough for you to control him, because part of his strength is being able to see you. If you can blind him, and I understand a strong man can keep a gator's mouth shut because their jaws that open are weaker than their jaws that close. I know this much. So I'm thinking your best bet, if you cannot get to a trash can, is to blind him somehow. Maybe throw a blanket on him, wet the blanket so he's weighted down a little bit, and then you get multiple people to stand on the edges of it or some shit. So his mouth can't quite open the way. We can get some of them, dude.
That's a very good usage of your Hamptonian education, because I'm telling you right there, I don't want to test that theory. Okay,
I don't want to test it either,
because I'm not going to sit there and wrap my arm around the daggone mouth of a gator to make sure to see if maybe my arm ain't that strong. That's a hell of a eureka moment for you to decide about your life, to be like, okay, what?
That is.
Maybe I should have did that.
That is. But kudos to him for thinking about that. That just the thought of that, I applaud him for being able to think of that.
That part. And kudos to the Gator Man. Kudos to the Gator Man. All right, we got 3 more questions that we will get you out of here. But this next question is the last of the current events segment. But I want to get a very serious answer, because again, like you said, you're very connected to social economic climate. You're very astute when it comes to Understanding the differences between genres, colors, races, and so forth and so on, ethnicities. What are your thoughts on the state of the political union in America?
So I was talking about this. I was actually talking about this to my mom. She's a super smart lady. It seems like in politics, we really divide everything down between party classes, Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats hate the Republicans. The Republicans hate the Democrats. And it works great like this. That's no coincidence, though. Like every time we have a war, there's a Republican president. That's a fact. If you go back in time, every time there's been a war, there's a Republican president. Recessions tend to happen around Democratic presidents, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I know that the wars always happen around a Republican president. And what the recourse after that is, there's a war, we blame the president, we vote for something that's completely opposite of it, we get a Democrat. And the Democrat comes in, usually they start cutting taxes for everybody but the rich, piss off the Republicans again, and it's just like a circle. It's a cyclical process. Mm-hmm. I'm watching The Matrix, and I can't help but realize, we are in a program. We're in a program that has trained us to, at no point in time, love everybody because we're hating on the other party. We can't even see what if you're a Republican, you can't see what the Democrats are doing right. And if you're a Democrat, you can't see what the Republicans are doing right.
Right. So
you refuse to work with one another to come to terms with how we can fix the whole thing. Therefore, they're both at fault and we're all wrong, in my opinion. Because I believe there's some entity above it, and I'm not talking Illuminati level. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I am saying there are governing bodies and people that are making decisions that keep us warring against each other because we never turn our attention to the problem of the U.S. government, which is where the real problem is. I'm going to try not to get you shut down, Donnie. I'm going to be real careful with what I say.
Shut down before anybody else shut me down.
Right. But my story is there is no coincidence to the fact that we are hating each other all the time. And it may even benefit the U.S. government to continue to make us hate each other so that they don't have to deal with issues like reparations, so that they don't have to deal with issues like homeless in America. I joke about it, but it's a serious problem, so that they don't have to deal with anything that the government can intervene in. And I'm not talking about dumping a bunch of money in. I'm talking about using your resources to create programs that help this, or linking two different groups that would normally be opposed to each other so that they can help each other. You know how many restaurants throw away millions of pounds of food a year? And the reason they have to is because if they give that food to homeless shelters, they now have a legal liability towards if someone gets sick or injured, they could get sued. You mean to tell me the government can't intervene and come and get this food from the restaurants, then take it to the shelters? So if there's any liability, the U.S. government is liable, not the restaurants. You can't tell me that's not going to fix one problem. Now, I'm talking like a kid in elementary school because everybody says the problems are much more complex than that. What if they are not? What if they're just that simple, but we're too busy dividing ourselves through bipartisanship to try to destroy one another? And I don't want to sound like a political major because I'm not. I really don't know much about politics. What I do know about is people. And I know people are great at becoming powerful by blaming other people for what weaknesses there are. So when I see party divisions, I instantly think, there's somebody benefiting from me hating this Republican or me hating this Democrat. There's somebody benefiting from Black people not doing well, but they're calling people of color now to dilute the importance of what Black people need. So now we're trying to address all people of color, when all people of color will need to be addressed. But you need to take care of the first sin, the original sin that America made, and slavery was never addressed. So I'm a huge supporter of reparations in America. A transformative reparations plan, not just dumping a bunch of money into our hands. And I follow the ADOS Foundation. You can go to the adosfoundation.org for more information on that. I don't represent them in any way whatsoever. I'm speaking personally for myself, but I do feel the answers are in the ADOS Foundation. And a shout out to Antonio Moore and Yvette Cornell for being leaders and just transforming the way we approach situations that need to be addressed. But again, I do believe that so many problems we face can be addressed by the U.S. government if we were to pull our resources together and to start not trying to rebel against the government, but working with the government to fix problems that are so simple to fix if we just get through all the paperwork and the logistics that we've convinced ourselves are necessary to be safe in America.
That's fair, and that's a great answer that I totally appreciate and respect, because to me it's unfiltered. It's really just your own bona fide, genuine perception and thought. And the thing that I love about it that makes me loathe having these kind of conversations with a lot of other people is because a lot of other people, a lot of their thoughts and perspectives are, to me, seem to be unfounded. They don't have any weight to them. Well, why don't you? Well, I hate Republicans. Why?
Right. Why?
I'm a Democrat.
Okay.
Okay.
And most Democrats can't tell you why they're a Democrat outside of their parents were Democrats.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with that being said, it goes to a larger point. It's like most of the time when we are so blocked into ourselves that you don't understand how much a part of the matrix you are in. You know what I mean? Oh, it's impossible for you to fathom that this institution has institutionalized you, and you don't
Absolutely.
look at it from that perspective.
Absolutely.
You know, because it then, if you realize that that's wrong, then that goes to show you that you've been lied to your whole life, which means now you're on shaky ground. Which people cling to their beliefs, people cling to their faith that things are just going to go the way that they was raised and taught that they were.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So again, I think that's the thing that I appreciate about your answer. And I mean, like you, I believe that there are higher things involved. I mean, I'm a pseudo conspiracy theorist myself, but that's just because I was born in the nation's capital, and I've seen and heard things that most people haven't seen and heard.
I bet.
You know what I mean?
I bet.
And so it's just one of those things that's where it's like, okay, cool. Well, yeah. I've been in meetings where I've been administrative support and heard them talking about the masses in a way that the masses I don't think would appreciate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just okay. If that's what you believe, then go ahead and believe that. But I'll just go over here and prepare for everything that's coming down the pipe. So
bet. And I think the bottom line is think for yourself. Know when there's programming around, because if you go out and watch people, just their shoes, let's say shoes, it's a neutral subject. Look at how many Nikes there are. People wearing Nikes, not just Jordans, but Air Max, everything Nike. 1980, Nike weren't even mentioned as a competitor in the shoe game. And now in just a matter of 40 years, they really have
preeminent authority in
oh my God. And that's programming, man. That's not just how they're marketed. There's not just celebrities wearing your shoes. That's everything. That's the music we listen to. That's the magazines we watch. That's the television program. That's watching our celebrities wearing these shoes. That's watching what our kids want to wear. That's watching the technology that Nike has improved upon being put into other shoes. It's slowly. During the Olympics, you're watching all these people wearing this shoe. America has branded itself as Nike capital of the world. That happened in as little as 40 years. Now you think how important politics is versus just shoes. How much more resources would go towards politics where you control people's mind and make them do what they want? If Nike can make us wear shoes in just under 40 years and make Jordans like the number one shoe ever sold in the world in the last, 10 years? Really? Like Jordan, when you and I were young, man, that was hot. That was crazy, but everybody couldn't afford Jordans. Yep. You weren't wearing Jordans like they are now. If you don't have a pair of Jordans, like what? Do you have a cell phone? Like it's ridiculous. Right. So when you put stuff in perspective like that, radio programming is called programming for a reason, because they're playing it over and over again. It's getting into your subconscious. It's controlling a part of how you think. So you no longer control it anymore. They control it. TikTok. is so many songs that you hear. It's not even about the song. It's about the challenge that they do that the song is linked to. Now this song is number one. Radio programming is shifted into the internet. TikTok is as much a programming device as radio ever was. Nikes have been programmed to us just as much as the politics we are. All that to be said, we are easily programmable. It's just a matter of time.
That's the best way to put it, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Best way to put it. And I appreciate you for appearing. I appreciated this whole conversation, man. At some point in time, definitely I want to get you involved more in these, because obviously you just have a higher IQ and definitely a great funny bone, man. And I would love to pull you in on a lot more future iterations of the beat, Two Flew West, just everything that I'm doing at least. So, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Love it, brother. Love to participate in anything you're doing.
Appreciate you, man. Any advice for aspiring talent, young entrepreneurs, young comedians, young thespians, people of higher IQ, just anybody that's aspiring to be a greater version of themselves? What advice do you have?
I think the best advice I heard was from Eddie Murphy, and he said, "Don't take anybody's advice. Just literally follow your heart. If you believe you can do something, the only one that can stop you from doing it is you." Willpower is the most powerful thing on this planet. And if you will yourself to be successful at something, you will be successful at it. The reason a lot of us haven't is because we give up on ourselves before anything else does. So, just try not to take any advice. If you think you can do something great, don't let anybody stop you from doing what you already know you can do, and you will accomplish that.
Willpower means I will power my way to the design goal.
There it is. Very true.
All right, man. How can people learn more about you? You got any shout outs, any websites, anything you want to call out? Just throw it out there.
Man, I appreciate you, Donnie. You done a great job putting my IG up, putting Facebook up. I don't stay as current with these social media platforms as I should for obvious reasons. As an artist, it doesn't benefit me to read the comments. It's one of those things that's not helpful. However, if you want to reach out to me, you can definitely do that through either social medias, De'Mun Oakley. Facebook is at De'Mun.Oakley. IG is De'Mun Oakley. You can always email me, De'MunOakley@Hotmail. I check that every day. That's cool. Hit me up. I want to shout out everybody's name I dropped earlier is out of love. I mean, no disrespect to anyone. The only reason I mention you is because I love you, believe in you. The video you showed, the one with me performing, the sizzle reel, I think it's called, was by Erica Jacobs Ware. Shout out to her for putting that together for me. I just have a huge support system. If you want to learn more about me, go to any of those social media platforms, email me personally. You can Google me. I have a lot of footage out there. I need to upgrade my footage. It's old. I got pre-Trump footage out there. I could put some stuff up since Biden has been elected. That'll be my goal for 2022. But just Google the name. There ain't a whole lot of De'Mun Oakleys out there, I promise you.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
For sure. And if they do, they don't matter. Well, listen, brother. Like I said, hang on for a few after this interview, so we can close up shop. But nonetheless, like I said, I love you, brother. You're all every bit as family to me as my blood relatives, man. And I just want to be helpful if I can to your success. I'm thankful for you, and just elated to have you on the show, man. You make sure you take care, and we'll be in touch for sure.
Thank you, Donnie. Appreciate you. Donnie got the beats.
With that being said, man, we're gonna let De'Mun Oakley go. Make sure y'all like subscribe to De'Mun Oakley's social media, and just support this brother, man. Definitely, he got a huge platform, and it's only going to get bigger from where he is now. And like I said, this guy's a great guy. So make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you like and subscribe to Beat. Definitely more interviews to come. And then, as a matter of fact, I got to handle some business for that to get more people on anyway. But nonetheless, thank you. Like and subscribe to the Beat. I'm Donnie B. Got the Beats. I'm your host. We live on the Beat, and we out. Peace.
Donnie B. Got the Beats.